Welcome back. We are a Clinch Fight podcast. I'm Michael O'Donnell, and I'm delighted to be once again joined by my co-hosts, Mr. Josh Hurst and Mr. Oliveira. Boys, how are we doing?
Not too bad. How are you?
I'm great, thank you, boys. I'm delighted to do another episode with you both. It's a special episode. We don't usually do the MMA episodes of all three of us, but we thought, why not? Why not change things up? On Saturday, we had the big, undisputed lightweight UFC title fight on the line between Michael Chandler and Oliveira. Can't quite forgive me for my pronunciations, but I believe it's Oliveira. Boy, Ollie, tell me about the fight. What did you think?
Well, Oliveira was in control, obviously, until it didn't class as a knockdown, which is why I think some people are arguing that the two judges that gave the first round a 10-8 to Chandler it maybe shouldn't have been a 10-8. But Oliveira, he came over a bit of adversity in that first round after the first few minutes in control to then get clipped. But the way he came out in the second round, the way he caught him with that left hook was something beautiful.
For those of you who don't know, I forgot to mention Oliveira is the new undisputed lightweight champion. He stopped Chandler in the second round of the contest. Josh, interested to hear your thoughts on the fight.
Yeah, really good fight. It was one of them, one goes up, one goes down, one goes up, one goes down again. So going into it was really 50-50. Wasn't sure who to put money on about who would win. But yeah, like Ollie said, after coming through that adversity, I thought Chandler was about to get him out of there, but he seemed like he just did enough to wriggle out the way to stop the stoppage. Fair play to him the way he came back in the second round, because that left hook he landed was sweet. So that's high level boxing for someone.
Personally as well, I thought that Chandler was most likely going to do what he did to Dan Hooker to Oliveira, but I was actually glad to see Oliveira win. He's come up the hard way. He's not come in like Chandler had. He's had one fight and fighting for the belt. He's had, I think that was his 28th fight in the UFC since over a period of about 10 years. He's come up. He's had quite a few losses, especially in the beginning of his UFC career, and to come through it all and then to end up being a champion. It's kind of like a Michael Bisping story, where he's been around for so long. He kind of deserves it.
Yeah, I think as well. I've been really impressed with for someone who's considered just sort of a jiu-jitsu guy. His striking's improved tremendously.
The only thing I didn't like about his striking, his head just didn't move. Yeah, and that's where he got dropped.
I suppose he made up for that with keeping his guard fairly well. But again, the execution of the left hook that he landed that initially put Chandler down was textbult. So
perfect.
That's really, really high level boxing. So again, for someone who's supposed to be just
it has the most submissions in UFC history.
Yeah, that's what I mean. He really showed out. So fair play to him.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I read a mad interesting fact that in Oliveira's first 18 fights UFC, he had 10 wins and 8 losses. Like, so kind of, it's a bit of a journeyman record, it's fair to say. And the fact that now he's persevered with his career, and now he's hit the heights, isn't he? It's upwards from here. No matter what happens, he's going to get a big fight next.
I think it might have been 18 fights overall in the UFC, not 28. I think I'm bad.
It's been a long day.
28.
Yeah, sorry, my bad. But it was a massive win for Oliveira. And to be honest, before this fight was announced, I just didn't think this was the right fight for the title. Obviously, Chandler had only had one fight in the UFC prior to this, and Oliveira wasn't, he wasn't a household name like your Dustin Poirier, your Justin Gaethje, your Conor McGregor.
I think Oliveira got quite lucky that Dustin Poirier chose to take the trilogy with McGregor, because if he chose to go for the title, it would have been Poirier versus Chandler, and Oliveira would have had to sit on the sidelines and maybe even get another win before he could fight for the belt.
Yeah, and I think any win around that fringe of lightweight is tough. So yeah, I think it's probably best case scenario and probably the best opponent for him out of the pool as well. So he did well.
I was pretty confident though going into that fight that Chandler was going to do it, because I thought Chandler had the World Championship experience of Bellator. You could argue that Bellator isn't in the UFC, but it's world title experience nevertheless, isn't it? And he's been involved in a lot more championship fights than Oliveira at the time. So it was a massive win. But that
And
first round could have been a lot different, couldn't it?
And he's got that freak power where he just hits people and they just fall.
It's like it's the explosion though, isn't it? He can just generate it so quickly as well. So
yeah,
proper springs into everything he does. So
I think the way he's built, he's just stacked and he just goes forward really quick.
Yeah.
That fast muscle.
Yeah, definitely.
He's a big lightweight, isn't he, Oliveira? He looks huge at the weight.
Yeah.
Has he fought a different weight before?
I think he went down to featherweight, or he was at featherweight.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. I think it might have been him that fought Anthony Pettis at featherweight.
Because he used to have a bit of a label. He used to have that quitter label as well, didn't he? From one fight, I think, where he sort of just he sort of retired in mid round or something. But yeah, again, he's not your sort of typical hyped come up. I've done it really the hard way.
Going forward, though, I think if Poirier, obviously the winner of Poirier McGregor is going to fight Oliveira now for the title next, and I don't see with the striking Oliveira has, if he entertains on the feet at all with either of them, I see it being a very quick night for him, and I see him losing. But maybe with McGregor, he can take him to the floor and get a submission. But I see Poirier walk through him. Yeah,
to be honest, I fancy Oliveira's chances against Conor McGregor. It depends on how McGregor looks against Poirier. If McGregor can rewind the clock and look like the old Conor McGregor that fought Eddie Alvarez, for example, then I probably fancy McGregor to Oliveira. But anything but that, I think if it's quite a close contest and McGregor wins, a split decision, and Poirier doesn't look very good on that night, I fancy Oliveira to beat McGregor.
Yeah.
I think, I agree with you all. I think Poirier could be too much for Oliveira.
Yeah, I think he's the top dog at lightweight at the minute.
Yeah, I think Oliveira, as much as he did a good performance, he's obviously there's a blueprint to beat him because he nearly got out of there. So again, I hope he doesn't get too confident with his striking. Don't get me wrong, he's improved a lot, but there's no point for him trying to strike with a striker. He's always got jiu-jitsu in his back pocket. So obviously it adds another element to his game, so he can sort of, when he fights someone, not just assuming he's going to try and take him down. But yeah, I wouldn't run it against someone like against Conor or Poirier.
That's what I see as well, especially against Poirier's. Poirier's stand-up, I think, is a lot better than Oliveira's, and Poirier is also a black belt in BJJ. So it's not like it goes to the floor and he's kind of not a fish out of water or such, but
a lost puppy.
It's not like there's a massive gap between the experience, whereas Poirier is still an elite level. And I just think Poirier's just got way too much skill, I think, for pretty much anyone in the division at the moment. Yeah,
Poirier is an incredibly well-rounded fighter, isn't he? He's pretty good at all elements. Anything you need to do well in the UFC, he does at least the basic of everything pretty well, doesn't he?
Yeah.
There's also, let's not forget, Justin Gaethje. I fancy Justin Gaethje against Oliveira. I think that division is so open now with Oliveira winning. If Chandler had won and won well, I would personally think Chandler could be the man that takes some beating. And I would also, I thought if Chandler won this and looked good, I was thinking, will Khabib come back? Because that's quite a big fight then, isn't it?
I don't think apparently before Mayweather offered Logan Paul the exhibition, they offered it to Khabib and they offered him 100 million and he said no. So I don't think Khabib's ever coming back.
Yeah, there was also talks with Dana, wasn't there? I think Dana announced that. I've just spoke to Khabib and he's definitely not coming back. It's not a money thing for him, obviously.
He's still very much involved in the UFC, and he was cornering Islam before, wasn't he? So, you never know. It might be the case where he sort of tries to take a backseat that way, but it's not unheard of that someone does that and sort of gets itching to get back in there. But yeah, I personally don't think he'll come back now. He's got nothing left to prove, really, does he? So, on top of what's happened with his dad and his promise, whatever, I can't imagine him doing that. There's not enough anymore for him.
In the co-main event, another big lightweight fight, Ferguson versus Beneil Dariush. How do you think that went, Mike?
To be honest, Tony Ferguson looks shot to bits. He just isn't that guy anymore. The fighter, 2 years ago, the fight to make was Tony Ferguson and Khabib Nurmagomedov, and I actually fancied Ferguson to do the job and Khabib. That's how highly I rated Ferguson. Yeah. You know, I wasn't 100% confident he would beat Khabib, but I thought he was definitely the man to do it. Like, these were the two best guys. Since that Gaethje fight, it's like Gaethje took his soul. Like, Ferguson was quite unorthodox before. He was quite well-rounded, and he just looked so predictable on Saturday night. He looked
every part of a 37-year-old man.
Yeah, and he looked so static, and he honestly looked like he was broken. Honestly,
yeah, like I feel like he's kind of in a way he's lost that aura of wildness, and you can kind of what he's going to do. He's going to come out. He's going to do something weird, but it's not going to be too insane anymore. I feel like everything he's doing now has already been seen.
Yeah, I think it was a particularly hard watch seeing that. I think beforehand, I think most people sort of would have liked to see Ferguson get back in there because of he's been unlucky in the past with not having the proper title shot or having the actual battle. So he had the interim for a while. So yeah, it wasn't particularly nice to see. And he didn't look the same. I kind of feel like his mind is there, but his body's can't keep up with his mind. We saw that because of that heel hook Dariush had on him and his face on a sort of wincing form. Yeah. So again, he's clearly a nutter the way he can hold on and sort of carry on going. Yeah. But it seems like he that's not enough anymore for him to, No.
If you look at like the stats after the fight, he had a control time over the 15 minutes of 5 seconds. Compared to Beneil Dariush, he had 12 minutes and 15 seconds.
Yeah, so
and that's the story of the fight, really.
Yeah. The Ferguson of 2 or 3 years ago, you'd fancy him to beat Dariush, wouldn't he? I think he wins that fight all day. The Ferguson of 2 or 3 years ago. It just shows how downhill he's gone, and I think the injuries must have played a part really when he's pulled out against Khabib.
Yeah,
and all that.
The thing is, where does he go now?
For me, like, I'd hate to see him become a gatekeeper of some sort, but that's what it looks like it's going to be, isn't it? He's quite a proud guy. I think he does enjoy fighting, even though he doesn't seem to be. I wouldn't say he's not very good at it, because he obviously is, but he's not the guy that we thought he was, as what he used to be anyway. Yeah. And I think it looks like he's going to be one of those, another Tyron Woodley kind of story. He's going to probably fight these upcomers who want to break into the top 10 or top 5.
I think the UFC will keep him around just because when they have fighters to bring up, it's a credible name to beat, to push them further.
I think Ferguson's like underratedly got one of the biggest fan bases in the UFC as well. Under any video remotely UFC, is Tony Ferguson the type of guy to something like that. So he's literally he's like a legend to some people. Again, I particularly like Ferguson just because you don't know what you're going to get with him. But yeah, I think I don't know. It's a tough one. I think if he's being smart, it might be better just to sort of hang up the gloves. But my worry for Ferguson is that I feel like he doesn't have much else going on besides fighting.
Yeah, and I feel like he's got an awful lot of CTE.
Yeah, and I think he's already seems a bit lost. Even when when Dariush got his arm raised, he almost just took it looked like just watching him, he just had a sort of blank stare, like sort of him realizing that it might be, it's sort of for him now. So I don't know. I think personally they might throw him in with someone a bit shit just to maybe get him a win and then see him off. But yeah, similar to you, Mike, I wouldn't want to see him just be used as a name, and you can only have so many fights and like that and take as much punishment as he does without feeling.
Yeah, I would agree with that. The fact the difference between him and what Tyron Woodley the difference could be is that Dana didn't like Tyron, so I think he was happy feeding him the upcoming killers.
Yeah.
Whereas I don't think Dana minds Tony, so I think he may get a slightly easier fight to see if you can get another win out of him and build him up again.
Yeah, to be honest, I don't think there's a way back to the title for him now. But I'd like to see him go off on the bang at least, or get him back in good graces, because I think he does deserve. He's been very unlucky throughout the sort of the whole of his career anyway, with not getting that proper title shot. So he definitely deserves better. So whatever he does, I hope it works out for him.
Do we know if he has I don't know if any of you know about his private life, or they watched any documentaries he might have been in, but like, has Ferguson made any good investments outside of the sport? Does he seem to be a switched-on guy?
I'm pretty sure a while ago there was some sort of thing to do with his wife, where they were apart. She got some sort of restraining order against him.
Right.
Don't quote me on it, but I'm 90% sure I saw something about that, and then he kind of got his shit back together again.
Right.
So I know his life outside of MMA is also a bit wild.
Well, yeah. Well, I think again, we see a tiny bit of it whenever his camp starts and the media's on him. You know, you must be a fucking nutcase half the time. Like, if you think he's like that all the time, yeah, it's funny to watch. But I couldn't imagine living with him. Like, he must be crazy.
Well, I remember watching The Ultimate Fighter, and he was an absolute lunatic on that, wasn't he? Like, very kind of strange banter in that house from him, wasn't it? And very confusing guy, very unpredictable. And it's like you said, Ollie, off camera, he's very much lost that unpredictability, isn't he, Ferguson?
Yeah.
And that was what made him so dangerous.
Interestingly, though, I did believe he seemed really fired up for this. So I did think he'd probably be able to come through it just off his willpower. But like you said, it looked like he was there mentally, but he's just I think beforehand, maybe in other fights, his sort of good thing, or his sort of best asset is that he'll always outwork the other person.
Yeah.
I think he's starting to lose that thing that changes him. Like, you know, he's like a zombie and you can't finish him and he doesn't stop coming. So I think where he can't keep up with that anymore, he's losing what would let him.
Yeah, I think that relates back to what I said in the beginning as well, as he looks every part of a 37-year-old man now. But I think one last honourable special mention for the card was Edson Barboza at featherweight, with one of the strangest knockouts, probably the strangest knockout at least this year, one of the strangest knockouts I've seen in a long time, with that right hand and then the delay. And then, as you said before, his body looked like the malfunction. And
it's just really strange. It was weird because he got hit with it, and then he got Burgos got his guard back up and was sort of bouncing up. His legs were fine, and then just sort of, I don't know, again, like a malfunction, and then he just shot or something.
I mean, it'd be interesting to see Barboza at featherweight now.
Yeah, I was going to say that. It looks like I think he was struggling with the weight a bit beforehand when he first came down, but he looks like he's settled into it now. So he's watching him strike is just amazing, isn't he? He's stiff and gravy.
Yeah, he is one of the best Muay Thai fighters in the UFC at the minute.
So clean, like even the leg kicks as well. Like, oh my god! Like,
it'd be good if you could. Sorry, it'd be good if you can make that division a bit more interesting, because obviously there was a few good names there, isn't there? With Max Holloway. There's what's the champ's name again? Sorry, Volkanovski. It could be a welcome addition to that.
Imagine you get Barboza, have a decent few fights, get a good few wins, a couple knockouts, Max Holloway on a tear, and you get them together.
That'd be amazing.
That'd be a hell of a fight.
Because it's just they'd stay on their feet and just have
that. That would be like the Holloway versus Calvin Kattar fight, but against a better striker, and I think they just batter each other.
Yeah,
and Barboza's never really had it easy, has he? He's been in some tough fights. He's always been in some very good fights.
That fight with Khabib, he looked like you watch it and you kind of felt sorry for him. As like Joe Rogan says, Khabib makes people do the 1,000-mile stare, where they're kind of just in there, but they're just looking out there like, what the fuck is going on?
Do you know what? That was quite going into that fight with Khabib. I gave him a bit of a chance here because I remember watching Michael Johnson against Khabib, and Michael Johnson was, I wouldn't go as far as saying busting him up, but he had his moment, didn't he? In that first round. Yeah, and I thought Barboza is, he's as good as a striker as Michael Johnson is, and I thought this could be a really hard fight for Khabib, but it really wasn't, was it? Khabib just absolutely nullified his attack and just destroyed him, didn't he?
He just puts his hands up and just walks into you, takes all your punches, and then just fucking mauls you to the floor.
Yeah, so I think there's a blueprint to sort of beating Barboza there.
Yeah,
but again, it's still, you still have to survive the striking or be able to deal with it, take that away from him, which is much easier said than done. But yeah, be really interesting. It's obviously a sort of historically busy featherweight, so be good to see it heat up a bit more.
Yeah, this is his last chance, isn't it, now, to make something of his career, see if he can push and get that big fight, at least at featherweight, against a top 3 opponent, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, I think we'll leave it there for today. Nice to speak to you again, boys. Nice to talk about MMA. There's been a few boxing episodes recently.
Yeah. I've missed talking about the MMA, and it's been annoying seeing. I tried to get away from Josh for this podcast episode, but unfortunately, we ended up doing the three of us. So, Josh, before we leave, I'd just like to ask you, what's with that Manscaped T-shirt, then, mate? What's going on there?
How very nice for you to ask. I had a nice delivery today from Manscaped, which news to follow with what's going on with that. But yeah, really interesting stuff coming up for us. Stay tuned.
Definitely, for sure. We certainly will. Okay then, guys. Well, it's good to speak to you again. If you you could follow us on Twitter at Y_C for clinch. Make sure you subscribe and like the video, please, because it really helps to grow our channel. We are also on Instagram at Clinch Fight Podcast. Anything else I missed there, boys?
Just look in the description, and we'll also list all of the socials instead of having to listen to on Instagram at _clinch.
And Ollie feels a wanker. Goodbye.